This is Geek Gab with your hosts, Dornall, Brian Niemeier, and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. That's right, episode 36 of Geek Gab, December 26th, the day after Christmas. And today's subject at hand, which we will get to in mere moments, is Star Wars: The Force Awakens. But first, let me say hi to my currently attending co-host. My other co-host will no doubt be here momentarily. Ryan, how was your 2 weeks, being as how we weren't here last week?
Oh, excellent. How about yours?
Excellent, that's it. A whole 2 weeks, and you can sum it up with just excellent?
Well, I have no conception of time, so kind of like a cat. You know, for me, feels like just yesterday or tomorrow. I never know.
So nothing recently exciting, super exciting happened at all? Seriously? Man.
Well, the commemoration of the birth of Jesus Christ. I mean, that takes precedence. But that's my theologian showing.
Even I can come up with some good things that happened the last couple of weeks. I have started reading the Terry Pratchett Discworld series for the very first time.
Ooh.
And I just recently started Night Watch, which is about, and wait for it because the title is somewhat misleading, it's about the Night Watch in the city of Ankh-Morpork. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No idea.
No idea. Okay.
I've never actually read Discworld either. The only Terry Pratchett I've read is I believe he wrote Good Omens with Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
So that's only my only exposure to him, but I loved it.
He is an absolutely amazingly fun writer. He's like almost as good as the man who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams, almost as good and far more prolific. So,
and I've heard people in the industry say that they actually prefer Pratchett to Adams. So that seems like a bold claim, but you know, as much as I love Neil Gaiman, especially in his comics, reading like Neverwhere or even American Gods after Good Omens, I always thought that there was something missing, and I'm pretty sure that's Pratchett's influence.
It might actually be. Pratchett has a very, very strong, bold sense of humor. Neil Gaiman's sense of humor is a lot more restrained. It's a lot more. It's a lot drier. It's a lot less. I'm not trying to. I don't even know how to describe it because I've never thought about it before. But yes, you're right. Okay. By the way, Neverwhere, excellent book, highly recommended. Neil Gaiman, obviously one of the best modern writers. And if you haven't read them, I am quite enjoying the Discworld novels. They're great. I started at the beginning and I'm reading them all the way through. So there's 40-something of them, and I'm on number 7 or 8, I think. So, yeah, excellent so far, and I'm very much looking forward to some more.
I can't wait to get your final analysis. I'm currently in the middle of reading The Cunning Blood by Jeff Dunteman, so my to-be-read pile just keeps growing, but I'll eventually get to Discworld.
By the way, since today's subject is, in point of fact, The Force Awakens, have you seen The Force Awakens?
Yes.
Are you ready to give a complete and total analysis and critique of the text?
Well, look, let me just say, sure, we could nerdishly pick this movie apart. We could just tear it down. I was done. But yes, I am prepared.
So, I don't know. I don't know where to start. Okay, here, let me start with saying this. If you want they're gonna be spoilers in the rest of the show. We got about half an hour, so from here on out, after this little non-spoiler sort of review thing, we're gonna have spoilers. So just be prepared for that if you weren't spoiled already. I had to unfollow a couple of people on Twitter because they spoiled a part of the movie for me. By the way, those of you who follow me on Twitter, I am off Twitter for the time being. I don't know how long. It's not going to be years or months probably, but I'm off Twitter. If you're trying to reach me on Twitter and any time in the past 5 or 6 days, I wasn't there. I didn't necessarily see your tweets, so it's nothing personal. So here's my non-spoiler review of Episode 7. It is far, far better than all of the prequels put together. It is almost as good as maybe Return of the Jedi, but it does not carry the thematic or mythic weight that Lee Brackett was able to bring to the scripts for Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And there are many times in the movie in which they use modern vernacular, which is just, I'm not saying that's a huge flaw. I'm saying that's a sign that they did not have someone at the helm of the script who knew how to make things seem big and dramatic and mythic. And the movie is a forgettable action movie with Star Wars costumes. It is not a bad movie. It is not a terrible movie. It is a quite fun movie in many ways. The best thing I could maybe compare it to is an action movie that you go, you see, you think, hey, that was neat, and you never really have a strong urge to see again. If it were not part of the Star Wars universe, nobody would remember it beyond a year or so from now. There are no really super memorable characters, and all of the cool stuff that you're buying into the movie for are because characters from the original trilogy are there. So go to it, enjoy it. If you like Star Wars, you'll like this movie, but it is popcorn. It does not carry a lot of thematic or mythic weight. It is not a movie that will stand the test of time. All right, Brian, your pocket non-spoiler review.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to agree with everything you said. I thought that was an excellent summation. I'm going to go a bit deeper into the writing craft of it because it's almost impossible for me to consume any form of mass media entertainment without going into editor mode. So, first of all, yeah, my impression of sitting there for 2 hours and watching the movie was like looking at one of those, like an MC Escher painting or one of those paradoxical drawings, you know, the kind that can only exist two-dimensionally, cannot exist in 3D space, and just turning around, trying to make sense of it. And what I finally concluded was, much along the lines of what you said, the individual pieces, many of them work, you know, like the characters, themes, plot devices, setting, many of them work. Some of them don't, with a couple of glaring examples I'm sure we're going to get to tonight. But in the order they're put together in, they shouldn't work at all. You should not be able to build a story with these elements that is cohesive and tells a coherent, satisfying narrative, you know, with the catharsis that Aristotle talked about. But the only reason that it works at all is because Abrams smashed this stuff down into the Star Wars shaped template, specifically A New Hope, with a little bit of, like John Sierra said, they threw the A plot of Empire in as the B plot for this. Okay, so yeah, it's only because they were able to cram. They were basically, Abrams achieved, like, he made a square circle because he had the Star Wars shaped mold to work with.
Okay, so if we're going to discuss further in plot, we're going to go into spoiler territory. So if you're ready, we're going to be spoiling the movie. You haven't seen the movie, you might want to turn off the show right now, because we will be talking about plot details and spoiling them. This is your last warning. We will discuss anything and everything in the movie, and we will give anything and everything away. So turn off now if you haven't seen the movie yet. All right. Let me say this, because I want to get this out of the way right at the top, because it's the most obvious thing that struck me about the movie. And it is surprisingly controversial. And I don't know why it's controversial. The only reason I can think that it is controversial is because people are stupid and or insane. Rey, the main character, the female who it is hinted is the daughter of Luke Skywalker without directly saying so, is, in point of fact, a Mary Sue. She just is. She could be the archetypal example of Mary Sue with two exceptions, the canonical example of Mary Sue. She doesn't have eyes that change color according to her mood, and she doesn't actually have sexual congress with anyone from the original Star Wars movies. So other than those two exceptions, she is almost the perfect Mary Sue. She is, and I'm going to read from, all right, now.
Wait, what are you going to read from?
I have two pieces of
You're
literature.
reading the original fanfic, are you?
No. Oh, God, no. No, we don't have time for that, and I'm not sure that I have the intestinal fortitude to pull that off. I read that bad Star Wars official fic on the last show, and I don't think I have the strength to read the actual Mary Sue. But I have the TV Tropes page pulled up that, by the way, Mary Sue existed long before TV Tropes, long before TV Tropes. They just wrote it down in a place where it's easily referenceable. And I also have a nice infographic that was provided to me courtesy the internet describing Rey's Mary Sue-ness. So before I clinch the argument with evidence so accurate and convincing that there can be no doubt but that Rey is a Mary Sue, I'm going to let Brian respond, because he's also of a literary bent and a published author, and so has an opinion on this which is slightly more accurate than the other opinions, which are, one, the stupid opinions that I will talk about later, which is Luke is a Mary Sue. Stupid opinion. And the other stupid opinion, which is Mary Sue is a sexist term, and so you're a sexist misogynist who hates women if you call a Mary Sue a Mary Sue. So,
yes, we shall discuss Mary Sue's and other subjects literary.
So, what do you disagree with me? Do you think I am so wrong that it's embarrassing that you're on the same show with me?
No, I do not disagree with you. In fact, let me explain exactly how, mathematically, you are correct. And again, hat tip to John C. Wright, who's basically my show prep. I recommend everyone read his review. It's definitive in my opinion. I mean, you've got one of the top 10 greatest living sci-fi authors and a 6-time Hugo nominee, pretty much saying what Data Warpig and I are saying. So we're right. And everyone else disagrees.
With you, but I will add that to my queue.
Yes, right after this, hurry off. But yes, so you're correct. Everyone else is stupid. There you go. You can get a science certificate. So here's why Rey is a Mary Sue. It is because the actions she takes and the things she's portrayed as doing have no explanation within the text. And the only way to try to argue to the contrary is to come up with various fan saves. So saying, oh, well, she might be Luke's daughter. Oh, well, the Force might basically be making her another chosen one to restore the balance. Okay, well, you are doing the writer's job. You should sue Disney for the script writing credit and join the Screenwriters Guild because you were doing the writer's job. You're doing the job that Kasdan and Abrams should have done, and they did not. So Rey is objectively a lazily written character. And I know this because I have made, look, I write space opera. It's my genre. I write space operas with female protagonists. Okay, I've written 2 so far. So I've heard from my editor, the aforementioned author's wife, okay, when I have messed up and committed the same mistakes that Abrams and Kasdan made with Rey, and she told me, you need to fix this because it sucks and it's confusing. I was like, okay, you're right, it sucked and it was confusing. So, can you have a character like Rey? Could Rey have worked? Yes, easily, and that's why it's such a tragedy. It's a wasted opportunity. She could have been awesome. The simplest way is you could keep her exactly the same and just not have a supporting cast. But unfortunately, it's an ensemble cast with really questionable reasons for it even being an ensemble cast in the first place, but that's another story. But look at James Bond, for example. Okay, he pretty much is a Gary Stu. He can outfight the bad guys, outdrink the winos, and outski professional Olympians. But he's a lone wolf, so it's okay. You don't need any other character.
And,
with Force Awakens, yeah, go ahead.
And James Bond is imputed to have excellent training in the past because he became a top secret super spy. So he's imputed to have training. They at least make a nod towards that. Also, he gets the crap kicked out of him. It's not easy and effortless for him.
And that's a great point because
I'm not saying that doesn't make him a Gary Stu. I'm not saying that doesn't make him a wish fulfillment character. I'm just saying that both of those ameliorate the situation a little bit.
You bring up a great point, which is that James Bond suffers. Okay, this is like a 40-year-old spoiler, but he sees his first flame and then his wife murdered in front of him, okay? Yeah, he gets beaten to a pulp. His liver is riddled with psoriasis, all right? Or cirrhosis. So, yeah.
That'd be quite a trick if his liver was riddled with psoriasis.
Well, I'm clearly not a doctor, but I am a hack schlock sci-fi writer, so I could make it happen. But anyway, the point is, when it dawned on me, and I saw almost every quote-unquote twist that Force Awakens had in store coming, I was like, oh, when I realized Finn isn't the main character, he was a red herring, and that Rey was going to be the main character, a bit of me died inside. Not because she's a woman, because of the way that our elitist manufacturers of culture treat strong female characters, TM, and that I knew she was never going to suffer. I just don't see in the remake of Empire that is clearly in store for us. She's not going to have a hand amputated by a lightsaber. She's not going to fall down a pit.
Those were the 2 things I thought would have elevated this movie to above average greatness. If 1, she suffers by getting her hand chopped off like Luke did, and 2, the other option was instead of killing Han Solo, they killed Princess Leia. Now that would have been brutal.
Well, you know what? That brings us to a totally different subject of the villain of this. I thought it would have been, for the most emotional impact, you kill Luke in this one. But, yeah, Leia would have been acceptable in Rey's case. But, yeah, that just to sum up, she's a super competent character who obviates the need for any other deuteragonist or tertiary protagonist.
She's a super competent character with not even a nod to how she became a super competent character. See, this is the thing. When you start off with Iron Man, the very first Iron Man, he is unbelievably super competent. Now, he's in a superhero universe, so the rules are bent for superheroes. But at the same time, they take a great deal of effort to show that he spent his entire life working hard and also being super competent ever since he was a child genius, the son of this great wartime industrial giant. The entire, right after the fight scene in Afghanistan, what do they flip to? His backstory and show where he's been working on things like this his entire life. That's how he's super competent. Rey has been living in the desert picking spare parts off of spaceships. She's done none of this before. None of this before. She's never Jedi mind tricked anybody before. She's never used a lightsaber before. She's never flown the Millennium Falcon before. She is a neophyte. And we know what neophytes with the Force are like in Star Wars, but because we saw Luke, who was a neophyte, and he sucked. He was terrible. He couldn't even deflect the weak laser bolts from a floating probe. And yet, Rey stands her ground with a trained Force user, a Sith, without, and don't get me wrong, she loses, but she doesn't really lose anything. She isn't harmed, hurt, or even threatened. This is the problem as a story. Just as a story. As soon as the audience realizes that the main character doesn't legitimately have any opposition that can threaten them or cause them damage or hurt them in any way, then the tension goes out of the movie and things stop mattering as much. You can still be awed by the pretty lights up on the screen, but things stop mattering as much. You see, in Iron Man, this super competent guy who's been a super competent guy his whole life is immediately put in a situation where he's dying. He's got metal shards in his chest eating their way into his heart. And if he doesn't hook up this battery right, he's going to die. And if he doesn't figure out how, in this cave in Afghanistan, to make something to get him out, he's going to die. And even after he makes that suit and gets out, he's in mortal danger because he flies up too high, his suit ices up, he almost dies. Somebody builds a bigger and better suit than him. The guy uses a device that paralyzes him and then takes the power out of his chest, and he's in danger of dying. They put Tony Stark in mortal situations again and again and again. He's in danger. Rey is never in danger in this movie. I'm done for right now if you want to.
Sure. Well, someone in the chat put out something interesting, which was Anakin being prodigy. And I actually came across this on Twitter, where one of my friends retweeted a meme that pointed out, well, look how competent Luke and Anakin and Han Solo were. Well, yet we're only complaining about how Rey's a Mary Sue. And I kind of deflated the thing by saying, yes, Anakin was a Gary Stu in the prequels. So you are attempting to prop up The Force Awakens by alluding to something in the prequels? I don't think you're making the argument you think you're making.
And Luke and Han Solo were not Gary Stu characters. They just weren't.
No.
Luke was an incompetent. He spent most of the first Star Wars getting his ass kicked until the very, very end when he had to use the Force to make his shot. It wasn't his skills as a pilot. It wasn't him bullseying wompats. Right. That just gave him the minimal proficiency to push buttons. He had to use the Force. And there was a big scene about him being told to use the Force and having to overcome his own doubt and stuff.
Right. Now, Mop Top Anakin Skywalker from Phantom Menace was a Gary Stu.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable combo with everything. That's why the movie sucked. So, yes, I agree and amplify with that. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and again, having a Mary Sue character isn't necessarily the kiss of death, but it is in an ensemble cast where really every character needs to have something interesting to do and to be better at that than anyone else and to do that thing at least once. But Rey does everything. And the point is, okay, we need to get into the literary reason why this is bad. This is where 90% of all the disagreement comes from. The reason a Mary Sue character in a situation like this is bad is because it completely deflates the tension, and the tension is what drives the plot.
Yep. So
at no point was I concerned for Rey, was I even considering that she would fail at a single task. So it kicked me out of the movie. I wasn't invested emotionally in what was going on.
Let me read this list. This is the list of Rey versus Luke. Rey, Beats up 4 guys by herself, knows more about the Millennium Falcon than Han does. First time she flies at all, she outmaneuvers TIE fighters in a large ship with an awkward cockpit position. Instantly skilled at using a lightsaber and wins a fight against Kylo. Regardless of his injuries, this is still stupid. Is instantly knowledgeable about probing minds, telekinesis, and using Jedi mind tricks. Instantly trusted by the Resistance to go on a mission to find Luke, even though they barely knew her. Speaks droid and Wookiee. Instantly liked and trusted by everyone. Luke gets wrecked by Tusken Raiders, needed Obi-Wan to save him. Gets yelled at by Han for backseat driving, not knowing what he's talking about. Competent pilot from flying and shooting his T-16, screwed up deflecting blaster bolts while Obi-Wan was training him. It doesn't get good with a lightsaber until 2 movies later. Struggled to use the Force to move objects and continuously doubts his abilities. Needed Leia and Han to cover his ass constantly during the rescue mission. Needs to talk to C-3PO to communicate with R2-D2. Initially annoyed Han and Leia with his naivety and innocence.
Right.
Not,
So yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, not Mary Sue. Not a Gary Stu.
Right.
So, yeah, that's...
I'll tell you what. I think we've thoroughly dispatched that controversy. How about we turn to the Diet Coke of Sith Lords?
Oh, do people not know what evil is anymore?
Nope. There's your answer.
Evil is not being whiny and emo. Don't get me wrong. Being whiny and emo is really, really annoying. But evil is not being whiny and emo. Oh.
It's a category error. I mean, you can have evil that is whiny and emo, but not all evil is.
Well, and that doesn't make you evil.
Right.
That isn't what establishes evilness.
Well, look, one objection I agree with is that Star Wars has always had really flaky moral underpinnings. I mean, emotion, like doing things while emotional at all, is the source of evil. They kind of painted themselves into a corner. So, but again, to kind of turn this back to a literary perspective, okay, so we discussed what's wrong with the protagonist, all right, and what's wrong with the antagonist. There really isn't one. In an interview, Adam Driver, who plays Kylo Ren, pointed out that what drove his portrayal of the character was he didn't see him as the villain, which is good. You should be able to flip any script around and tell the story from the villain's perspective, and it should still make sense where he'd see himself as the hero. But I thought he was a bit too sympathetic, seeing as how he was tempted by the light from the beginning. So there's this dichotomy inside of him where he's not fully committed, but really the major evil thing he's done is an informed attribute. Okay, we don't actually see him do it. We're just told, oh, he did this, he's a badass. I mean, mainly what we get from him is Charlie Kane-style room trashing tantrums.
Well, and here's the thing, too. You got to flip it around. He's not really a badass. He can't mentally dominate Rey. So obviously, I don't know how long he's been training, but he's been training for, a long time.
What the heck was Snoke doing?
Yeah.
Have the guy chase some chickens around at least.
He should have absolutely wiped Finn off the map. Finn should not have even been able to block once or twice with the lightsaber. He should have been able to do anything and instantly wipe Finn off. One gesture with his hand, he throws Finn back, he grabs a lightsaber from Finn, whatever. And he should have been able to do the same thing with Rey. A Sith Lord or a Sith Apprentice or whatever the heck he's supposed to be should have been able to take out those two almost instantly. Use the Force, wrap them up with cables or tree trunks or freeze them to the ground, stick them in place, whatever. It didn't make Rey seem super badass. It made him seem like this whiny kid who can barely handle his own abilities.
Right.
Which makes him less of a threat. Makes him less menacing, less dangerous.
Exactly. The way that, and this is what I thought they were going to do if they were playing it smart, they should have had Kylo Ren kill Luke Skywalker at the beginning and have the MacGuffin be something else. But that would have clearly established his cred. It's like, okay, he's the new Darksider, he's the new Vader, he's the new big bad.
Yeah, but not. If he killed Luke in the beginning, He would have diced Rey up into 500 chunks near the end of the movie. That wouldn't have let them make Rey the super competent Mary Sue she is.
Right, exactly. And that's why Finn should have been the protagonist.
See, that could have been interesting.
Yes.
I would have liked to have had Finn be the protagonist.
Because he had internal conflict. Because then you have two guys. You have two guys who start on the dark side and are tempted by the light. One of them actually turns to the light side. One of them doubles down. That ties the theme and the action together in a way that hasn't been seen in Star Wars since Empire.
Yeah.
That's what was going on in Empire. That would have been the smart move. But no, instead we get Mary Sue.
Speaking of the MacGuffin, that's just bad idea, I think, making it be another Death Star. How many we've blown up 2 Death Stars, right?
Yeah, so far.
So this is now the 3rd Death Star we've blown up. I'm sorry, I don't have a long rant about this. I just thought, well, that's dumb. That's boring. Can't we do anything new? Anything?
It's because it's a remake. The Force Awakens is a remake. Okay, it's best thought of as an almost beat-for-beat remake of A New Hope, and in that sense, it's not horrible. Abrams has proven he's good at that to an extent. I feel like it's time for me to say some good things about this. It's the best-looking Star Wars movie ever, hands down.
The special effects were absolutely impeccable. There was no obvious fake shots during the movie. They didn't take me out of the movie.
We have Harrison Ford actually being Han Solo. It's not the disappointment that Indiana Jones 4, which I'll never mention again, made, where he's just phoning it in. Like, he was clearly in character doing Han Solo things. I had no problem with his portrayal of Han.
I looking back on the movie, I think that there was a way they could have gone which would have made it a lot more interesting, but I'll let you finish saying the good stuff before I say that.
Oh, boy.
Is that it? Was that the good stuff?
Other good things. Well,
Chewbacca was in it?
Yes, Chewbacca was good. I don't want to get into too many spoilers. R2-D2, with a few lines he had when he was just sitting around in a closet, was good. BB-8 was good. He's cute.
Yeah, that droid didn't bother me like I thought it would. It didn't irritate me.
Yeah, I approve of BB-8 2016.
I mean, he is a discount R2-D2. That's why it exists.
Yeah, that kind of... It really threw off the droid dynamic. Only having one droid for so long and then suddenly having 3, but yeah, I'm trying to focus on the good here. I thought Hux was a pretty good character. He showed up and did his job. He punched the clock. I liked his speech.
The kind of roguish guy who starts the movie, he was all right.
Poe Dameron?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. He was excellent. I was talking about the First Order General. But
the redhead, the ginger.
Yeah, Poe Dameron was awesome. Like he was genuinely funny, and humor is the one thing that Star Wars movies have tended to fumble with. So he really helped out in that regard. Really helped rehabilitate the whole series, and it was just criminal that he's missing through the whole middle of the movie.
Yeah, I completely agree. If the main movie had been Finn and Poe Dameron together,
yes, I was just going to say that. Yeah, go on.
That just would have been great. That would have been a great and watchable movie.
Would have been a buddy movie in space.
Yeah, and you could have done some really, really cool stuff with that. All right, here's my radical change that will strike you as being kind of odd, but if you think about it, could have worked and could have made perfect sense. I think Princess Leia and Han Solo should have swapped positions. Han Solo as a responsible, older general leading the army of the New Republic. Leia, who has, as a criminal with Chewbacca, scouring the underside of the galaxy to try and find her brother so she can redeem her son. Now, here's why that works. We know that Leia can handle herself alone as a criminal because she did so in Return of the Jedi. She showed up, convinced a bunch of people she was really a bounty hunter, pulled a thermal detonator on Jabba the Hutt, and talked her way into his good graces. She can handle herself in the criminal underworld. Han Solo, at the end of Return of the Jedi, had become a somewhat respectable figure. And I think it would have been interesting to play against type, to where Han Solo has become a respectable figure and is trying to live up to the role he was thrust into. And Princess Leia has thrown away everything that she was trained in, everything that she grew up in as being a princess, as being a senator from Alderaan, and gone on to become kind of ruthless, a little bit mean, in a desperate search to find a brother in order to save her son.
Yeah, that could work. And it brings up an interesting twist on the politics of the movie that Red Letter Media brought up, which is that wouldn't it be interesting to see, okay, the New Republic is in place, and you've got the First Order, but the First Order is occupying the position that the Rebellion did in the original movies, where the Republic has gotten corrupt again. I mean, it's been 30 years. They could go through the whole anti-cyclosis cycle again, like Cicero describes. And so the New Order actually has an argument where the system is corrupt and we need order. And they were on the verge of doing that a couple times, like in Hux's speech. It's really the only insight you get into what's going on. But I don't know. I thought that would have been interesting to have the roles reversed.
Yeah, they did not establish the context of what's going on in the galaxy at all. You have no idea. These are bad guys. They shoot innocent people, and they have Nazi-esque imagery, and that's it. It's like, okay, those are really good signs. They're bad guys, but why do they exist? What is it they're pushing for? Who the heck is this Lord Snoke anyway? I mean, he's obviously an alien. Are they in charge of the galaxy now? Have they taken over the galaxy, or who are they? You don't know what's going on.
That's one of those things that would have just taken one throwaway line from Leia or Han or somebody or Hux.
Yeah.
But apparently the YA, believe it or not, so not the Wendig thing you read from last time, the YA tie-in novels reveal what's going on, and it's basically that, after the Battle of Endor, there was like one more year fighting. The Galactic Civil War officially ended at Jakku, which so I have all those shot down Star Destroyers all over the place. And there's a Republic. For some reason, they chose to move their capital to the Hosnian system and Hosnian Prime, which is what gets blown up. It's not Coruscant that Starkiller Base destroys. It's the new capital, okay, which I thought was weird. And it really smacked of Abrams wanting to destroy Coruscant, but Disney not letting him. So like, all right, fine, we'll create the system that looks exactly like the core worlds and destroy them. But so the First Order is a military junta that arose from the Outer Rim, because what Abrams, the way that Abrams sees them, kind of like Bradford Walker in the comments point out that the First Order is like the space SS. Yeah, he's right. The question Abrams asked was, what if all those Nazis that went into exile in Argentina after World War II, like formed a paramilitary group and then tried to conquer the United States again? So that's what's going on.
See, I could see, along the lines of what you were describing, the Empire had ruled for what, 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, whatever. I could see a bunch of people, the backbone of Imperial bureaucracy, being chock full of Imperial sympathizers, and it being almost impossible to root all of them out across the whole galaxy. And so they arise as kind of a covert group who's being supported covertly by a large number of planets who still have in power Imperial bureaucrats who are powerful under the Empire, want to be powerful again, and have been promised that if they can do away with this new government who is weak, who has not been able to bring, the rule of law back to large parts of the galaxy, that if they can do away with that and restore the Empire, they will also restore the order to the galaxy, which has been having, because it's a centralized, weak government, having brushfire wars and attempted rebellions and secessions and things like that. So basically 30 or 40 years of war where the rebellion is running around trying to put out small fires. All the while, this group is gaining more and more power because they genuinely see the need to restore a strong hand to the tiller of government.
Yeah, from what I gathered, the Resistance is kind of like the Republic is fighting a proxy war through them because they apparently don't want to use the actual Republic Navy to fight the First Order because that would give it legitimacy. So Leia pulled some strings, get some funding to fund the Resistance to kind of put down the threat of the First Order before it gets out of hand. What I'm wondering is, how the hell did the Republic let them build a freaking planet-sized Death Star with no one the wiser?
Yeah. All right. Well.
Oh, well.
So again, let me give you do you have any last words any last thoughts, anything we haven't covered already?
Yeah, so let me just sum up the Force Awakens, it's acceptable light space opera. You can sit down and watch it and turn your brain off and ignore the idiocy and enjoy the flashy, pretty lights and the spaceships. There's some good moments like the X-wings coming to the rescue, throwing up rooster tails over the lake at the last minute. That was great. Interaction between Poe and Finn while it lasts is gold. Han Solo is back in full effect. BB-8 is cute. So just, if you focus on the parts and don't worry too much about the whole, you'll have fun. I would wait for Blu-ray on this one.
All right. Yeah, it is a fun movie, but it is not a movie that is. I don't think it's a movie that's going to stand the test of time. Certainly is not on par with most of the original trilogy. But it is much, much better than the prequels. It is not bitterly bad, disappointing. My post today on the blog, daddywarpig.com, is several pieces dissecting the Sith, Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3, just to remind me and everybody else that is bad, terrible, bad movie making with a huge budget. That's what Episode 3 was. The Force Awakens is not Episode 3. It is far, far better than Episode 3, but it has at its core a lot of weaknesses that doom it to, if it weren't a Star Wars movie, if it weren't an official sequel, it would be at best a footnote in cinematic history.
And that's all we're going to get from now on. Rasta had a great article on this where he summed it up that the original Star Wars trilogy became brilliant pretty much by accident, and Lucas had his chance. The one time and place in history where these stars aligned, where a single filmmaker auteur could create the great American epic. A film that defines us as a culture in that time and place, but he wasn't interested in brilliance, and he dropped the ball. So now that he sold the ball to Disney, we've lost that brilliance. We're going to get, focus grouped, prefab, corporate pop entertainment, and we're going to get some winners and losers in there, but yeah, we're not going to get another Empire. We're not even getting another New Hope, because this was their attempt at another New Hope, and that's the best we're going to get, because the corporate machine runs it now. There are no more auteur directors to do this kind of thing, or that they would let near it.
All right, well, we're a little bit over time, but that's okay because, hey, it's Force Awakens.
Yeah.
It went a little bit over time. Went about 20 minutes too long, at least. So,
nice.
Thanks for tuning in. This has been Geek Gab, The Force Awakens, Saturday, December 26th, with your hosts, Brian Niemeier, and me, Daddy Warpig. We will be back.